Okay. Hello, my name is ScienceBeard, and today I'm talking about the DfE guidance that has come out of the DfE for schools for reopening in September. And I looked up the word guidance, and to be fair, the word guidance I think doesn't actually turn up, but it's advice or information aimed at resolving a problem or difficulty, especially as given by someone in authority. So guidance would have been nice, but let's look at what we actually have. And if you look at the blog, one of the blog posts that is just about one page long, they say that COVID-19 secure measures will remain in place to reduce the risk of transmission, with schools being asked to keep children in class or year group size bubbles and encourage older children to keep their distance from each other and staff where possible. This is alongside protective measures such as regular cleaning and hand washing. And that makes sense. But here's the problem. Um, if you have bubbles, um, then you need to think about the rest of the school day if you don't want those bubbles to break and mix, basically. Okay, but we'll come to that in a minute. So when outbreak in the school is confirmed, for specific detailed investigations, a mobile testing unit may be dispatched to test others who may have been in contact with the person who has tested positive. Testing will first focus on the person's class, followed by the year group, then the whole school if necessary. And as they've already said, the bubble in secondary schools, which I'm going to be focusing on, can be entire year groups. If one person in the year group tests positive, that is then their bubble, and therefore everybody should self-isolate until the test has been done, and then if it comes back positive, isolate for further 7 days. Okay. So the guidance published today provides schools, colleges, and nurseries with though they actually call it guidance here, with the details needed to plan for a full return, as well as reassuring parents about what to expect for their children. Now, if you give guidance, then you actually are ready to take some responsibility, right? Because if your guidance is wrong, then you are saying, well, I've given you the guidance, you followed it, it was followable, and um, if it doesn't work, then it was my fault for giving you guidance, which is actually not correct. And then they say that the guidance has been developed in close consultation with the sector and medical experts from Public Health England, which sort of means that it's okay, it's legit medically, which is fine, which is what you'd expect, really. Okay. The slight dig I had to get in there is that, of course, the government isn't always listening to experts, and I know this is during the referendum, but nevertheless, Gove was also Education Secretary at one time. So, alongside this, Ofsted will carry out visits to schools in the autumn term to discuss how they are supporting the return to education for their pupils. Now, I found this a really strange way of phrasing this, because I would have just written Ofsted will carry out visits to schools and, discuss with them how they can support a return to education for the pupils. But this sort of seems like they're saying we are supporting, we are already doing the right things. Now, during the pandemic, I have read lots and lots of stories of, like, first off, they were very slow to say that they would suspend visits and inspections, but those colleges, for example, who had an inadequate inspection where they couldn't recruit people. There was one in particular whose owner basically said, okay, we've addressed the things. It's now 5 months later. We've invited them to do a virtual inspection. They have declined. So we've been preparing our stuff, and we've done stuff. What are Ofsted doing? And I have to say, I've not heard a great deal out of Ofsted. They are not moving at all in what they're doing and how they're doing it. So it's a question of survival for some of these colleges, and Ofsted are just sitting there going, meh. Okay, so carrying on. Schools should implement class or year-sized bubbles, as well as encouraging staff and pupils where they are able to keep the distance from each other and avoiding touching. Good luck with that. All school, the good luck is not in the text. That's me saying it. All schools should work to implement other policies in line with their own risk assessment in a way that ensures pupils can be taught a broad and balanced curriculum. So, in other words, right, So they're giving, hopefully, I mean, we've not seen it yet, but these are excerpts, of course. But I've copied most of that into here. They're saying basically, okay, so we will give you some policies, and then you will do your own risk assessment, and then you will implement other policies. Now that's vague at best. What other policies? So then they go on to say other measures set out in the guidance include teachers to distance from each other and older students where possible. So if it's not possible, it's not possible. Increasing the frequency of cleaning, but there is no additional money. That's been made clear. Not just additional money for cleaning staff, but also no additional money for actual cleaning products. And I know that teachers can do everything and fix everything that goes wrong in society because they continually get the blame for anything that crops up in society. For kickoff, I was supposed to teach people with autism, people with ADHD, people with other SEND requirements, and the training I got was one afternoon after a busy teaching day, where instead of preparing for the next day, I had to sit down for 2 hours and fill in a form. That was the training I got, and that was the official training anybody got. You don't go off on a week-long training course for how to deal with ADHD students. No. So, whether that's right or not, but you can't be regarded as an expert in that. And I know that most people will say, well, cleaning is obvious. That's how you do it like this. You just run a sponge over the thing. But no, you don't. I talked to the cleaners at my school, and even they got training and they got PPE. And it's also been, we've also been told that schools will not, the DfE has said the schools will not get money for additional PPE. So, reducing the use of frequently shared items. So, you're not supposed to do practicals in chemistry then, or in science generally. Frequently shared items are, for example, scissors in art, balls in PE, but they don't give any details about that. So PE without any equipment, art without equipment, and science without equipment. Great. Minimizing contact in corridors. Most of the schools that I've visited, when they are reasonably older buildings, the corridors are less than 2 meters wide. A great deal less than 2 meters wide because of all sorts of things. Sometimes you find that there are hooks on the walls and people have their bags there as well, or they've got lockers, and it's in the normal school day, that's you rub shoulders. That's where the expression comes from, but not schools. I mean, but generally. So you can't minimize contact in corridors, other than if you stagger your exit times. But we'll come to that in a second. And nevertheless, you are still expected to teach a broad and balanced curriculum. In other words, carry on as normal. You're not getting PPE, you're not getting cash for cleaning materials, you're not getting additional staff to actually do the cleaning. So you are teaching as per normal, but you're doing the cleaning, and you do that without any proper instruction and without any more cash for the school for actually buying those cleaning materials. Essential measures are a requirement that the people who are ill stay at home. Now, I can see how this applies to teachers, but I cannot see how this applies to identifying pupils in the classroom. I mean, if somebody has a cough, what do? I'm not a doctor. How do you tell if they're genuinely ill, if they're putting it on? Because, students have been known to want to get out of school occasionally, and, what do you do? A robust hand and respiratory hygiene. So this is the wash your hands often, catch up in a kill it. Fine. We've been doing that for ages, more or less successfully. Enhanced cleaning arrangements. They don't give any details, but essentially it'll boil down to teachers needing to do the cleaning because no staff. And then with what equipment? But there we are. And with what training? I know, I say this again, as a chemist, I can say that some of the things, you clean with bleach at home as well, but you have your products and you know how to do it. And do you don PPE when you clean at home? No, but you're supposed to do it when you are professionally cleaning over a long period of time, time and time again. And I'll come back to this in a second as well. Active engagement with NHS test and trace, fine. Formal consideration of how to reduce contacts and maximize distancing. So you basically fill in a cost assessment or a risk assessment wherever possible and minimize potential for contamination so far as reasonably practical. Well, yes, but this is the thing. You have lots of door handles in schools. By definition, you have to have lots of doors, classroom doors, toilet doors, and those are the things that need cleaning the most. So essentially, teachers are now going to carry buckets along with them and cleaning door handles and chairs and wipe down things and so on. Now, in science, most science departments also have help in the form of lab technicians, but they also need time to prepare for the next lesson. But maybe they can get that time back by not having practicals, but then you're supposed to teach a broad and balanced curriculum. So squaring lots of circles there. So system of controls. Prevention, minimize contact with individuals who are unwell by ensuring that those who have coronavirus symptoms or have someone in their household who do not attend school. How do schools exactly manage that? How does an employer manage that? Does an employer go, oh, you look ill, go home? I very much doubt that. I don't think that employers will take it upon them to diagnose somebody and say, you are ill, you should have a test, and so forth. Particularly in secondary schools, when it means actually shutting down a bubble and sending a whole year group home. It's insane. Clean hands thoroughly more often than usual, fine. Ensure good respiratory hygiene by promoting ketchup and kill it, fine. We've been doing that forever. Introduce enhanced cleaning, including cleaning frequently touched surfaces, often using standard products such as detergents and bleach, but no money, no PPE, no instruction on how to do this. And cleaning at home is different from cleaning in schools because you need to do it far more frequently in schools. And there is actually some guidance, which I may come to later or not, depending how long I talk on this already. Minimize contact between individuals and maintain social distancing wherever possible. In a school, that is difficult. At best, it's difficult. I don't quite see, but we'll come actually to that. If you do a staggered release out of lessons, then that would be okay. But we'll see how that works. Where necessary, wear appropriate personal protective equipment. This means only personal protective equipment when you are actually already wearing it for your job. That means like tech or masks for like woodwork or whatever. Okay, so now what? Response to any infection is engage with the NHS test and trace process, which they've already said, manage confirmed cases of coronavirus amongst the school community. So now schools are doing the job that the NHS is already doing. And the difference between schools and the NHS is that the NHS is full of healthcare professionals. The school is not. Contain any outbreak by following local health protection team advice. Fine. What if a child is ill? You are supposed to wait with a child. So a child awaiting collection is moved to another room with an adult. Now, if you're already thinning out the herd in terms of creating bubbles or whatever, or even if you're not, most schools do not have extra rooms. They as a scientist, I can tell you that for nothing. I'm not always in a science classroom because there simply aren't enough rooms at any one time. Finding an empty room to do some extra revision with sixth form is virtually impossible at the best of times. So if a child needs the toilet, you need to clean the toilet after, but you don't have PPE, despite the fact that your normal cleaners will have PPE. Use PPE, or rather the school is supposed to provide you that, but that comes out of their normal budget. And they're not helping with that. The government isn't helping with that. Use PPE if separate room or social distancing can't be maintained, but you don't get extra PPE. Everyone must wash their hands thoroughly for 20 seconds with soap and running water, or use hand sanitizer after any contact with someone who is unwell. Yes. So essentially, if someone feels unwell, then you go and lead your class to the nearest tap and you ask them all to wash their hands for 20 seconds. That's going to take 10 minutes out of a lesson easily, if someone is unwell. And here's the thing, particularly with the lower years, if somebody feels unwell, they may have just had too many sweets. How do you know, right? I normally can play it cool and say, look, sit there for a while until you know, for 5 minutes until you feel better. If you feel better, brilliant. If you don't feel better, we'll call your parents to pick you up. But you can't do that anymore because you will get the blame if there is an outbreak of coronavirus. Don't worry, you will get the blame either way. But that's the uh, that's just how it works. Okay. So here's the guidance for cleaning in a non-healthcare setting. Cleaning an area with normal household disinfectant after someone with suspected corona has left will reduce the risk of passing the infection on to other people. Of course it will. Yes, brilliant. So wear disposable or washing up gloves and aprons for cleaning. These should be double bagged, then stored securely for 72 hours, then thrown away in the regular rubbish after cleaning is finished. And that is every time a child that is unwell has gone to the toilet. I'll let that sink in. Okay. Using a disposable cloth, first clean hard surfaces with warm soapy water, then disinfect these surfaces with the cleaning products you normally use. Do you do that at home? Okay, you may do. I don't. I just tend to spray it with my cleaner of choice and then rub it off. Pay particular attention to frequently touched areas, door handles, I've said that before, such as bathroom cupboards and corridors and stairwells and door handles. If an area has been heavily contaminated, such as with visible bodily fluids from a person with coronavirus, use protection for the eyes, mouth, and nose. Of course, that means then that you have to carry that around with you, and so do the kids that are with you at all times or are in that bubble. How do you know that they're ill from coronavirus? They need a test. The test takes time. You need to dissolve the bubble, and everybody goes home for 7 days, as well as wearing gloves and an apron. Wash hands regularly with soap and water for 20 seconds, and after removing gloves, aprons, and other protection used while cleaning. So this is not an easy thing to bear in mind to do, and any such violation will be blamed on the school because even though they've had no training, teachers will have to do this cleaning. Clean hands make for clean work, I call this section. So whether the school has enough hand washing or hand sanitizer stations available so that all pupils and staff can clean their hands regularly, but you don't get extra cash for putting those up. Supervision of hand sanitizer use given risks around ingestion. And of course, if you've got teenagers and you've got a pump thing, they will. I'm not going to say it, but they're going to play around with it, and they're going to do all sorts with it. And God helps anyone when they find out that you can actually set fire to some of those as aerosols. But you know, skin-friendly skin cleaning wipes can be used as an alternative, and look at the prices of those, and there's no additional money. So, okay, building these routines into school culture, and this is the thing, like knife crime, for example, is another. I know this is a completely different topic, but schools have been asked to combat knife crime, gun culture, all sorts of things. Anything that's sort of a societal problem where society has failed to react to it. You know what? Schools can do it. Schools can do everything. They're marvelous. No, they're not actually, because we don't trust teachers to do their own thing. So schools have been given all these extra additional things to do, and the building up a school culture around anything takes time, and it'll certainly take more than a couple of days to get that. But you can explain that to kids. But okay. So anyway, okay, moving on. Introduce enhanced cleaning, including cleaning frequently touched surfaces. We've already said that. Putting in place a cleaning schedule that ensures cleaning is generally enhanced. It includes, but no additional staff, no PPE, no money for additional products. Different groups don't need to be allocated their own toilet blocks, but toilets will need to be cleaned regularly, and pupils must be encouraged to clean their hands thoroughly after using the toilets. By whom? By teachers. So now, in break time, you have to supervise the students so that they don't go and mix. Even though it says different groups don't need to be allocated their own toilet blocks, but toilets will need to be supervised in order to prevent mingling and people piling into the same cubicles, because the kids will do that. They will just go, I need the toilet, barge through everyone, and good luck with that. That's all I can say. Schools must do everything possible to minimize contacts and mixing while delivering a broad and balanced curriculum, and this is the crux of the thing. So it's business as normal for you lot, as in teachers. Carry on teaching, carry on offering what you're doing normally, but also you need to do all the other things as well on top of that without additional help, training, or anything else. So there are no alternative options. these are not alternative options, and both measures will help, but the balance between them will change depending on children's ability to distance, the layout of the school. So there's logical problems here. Children's ability to distance depends on, for example, the width of the corridor, the space in the school, and the layout of the school. How do you change the layout of the school? You can't do that. So you have to work with what you've got. The feasibility of keeping distinct groups separate while offering a broad curriculum. Now, there's not a balance to be had in a feasibility. Feasibility means either it's possible or it's not. Okay? So keeping distinct groups separate while offering a broad curriculum. And especially at secondary level, how do you do that? This is a rhetorical question really, because I don't think you can. But there we are. Primaries have bubbles and secondaries have year groups. That's how it's going to work. In a primary, you have the situation where one teacher teaches everything, which is whether that's good or not is another debate that I would have with somebody. But in secondaries, you have year groups. And essentially, if somebody gets unwell, then that bubble is burst and everybody needs to go home. Adults should maintain 2-meter distance from each other and from children. So if a child wants you out of the classroom, all they have to do is walk towards you, because you need to keep away 2 meters from the children. Yeah, you haven't really thought that through, have you? Or you have no experience of teaching, and or both. But this doesn't apply to SEND pupils, which is fair enough. But then, whatever. Okay, for children old enough, they should also be supported to maintain distance and not touch staff and their peers where possible. I would have hoped that this is the case anyway, but this cannot apply to the youngest children because you can't do that in primaries, for example. But year 7s often run up to members of staff and tug at their, clothing and go, and then you have to tell them, no, get back again. Okay, but that's already too late. They've already come up to you. When staff or children cannot maintain distancing, particularly with younger children in primary schools, the risk can also be reduced by keeping pupils in the smaller class size groups described above, except that doesn't apply to primaries, where you've got potentially year groups. And the year groups, you can't have one teacher teaching everything. I can teach a lot of things, but I can't teach English, geography, and all the other subjects to any sort of music and art, to any sort of level that is suitable. Groups should be kept apart, meaning that schools should avoid large gatherings such as assemblies or collective worship with more than one group. It'll be interesting to see what Ofsted say about that, because collective worship is actually something that you need to do, which most people translate into assemblies, but they will. So staggered start and finish time should not reduce the amount of overall teaching time. Tell me how that is going to work. You're not allowed to stagger, but also you can't have people pouring out of the classrooms at the same time. Okay, and it should not reduce the amount of overall teaching time. So you need to release the students bit by bit by bit, and you need lots of staff to do that. So the staff, instead of preparing for the next day or doing other things, for them for teaching staff, every day will be a duty day. And you don't go to the toilet, you don't have lunch, you don't do anything else at school, prep, teaching, make photocopies for the next day or anything like that. No, you do that additionally when, right? And especially in science, when you're unable to do, because you're supposed to reduce often or frequently shared items of equipment, you're not supposed to do that many practicals. Then that means more paperwork, or at least more, it's okay. I'm just saying, squaring lots of circles here. We're asking schools to work with families to secure regular school attendance. They do that anyway, but I don't see how much power the schools can really have. And if, okay, so they will talk to families and make sure that they attend schools. Fine. Schools do that already anyway. Communicate clear and consistent expectations around school attendance to families. And that is no different to what they are doing anyway, throughout the summer ahead of the new school year. Does that mean that basically school holidays are cancelled for teachers? This doesn't recognize, despite some stories in the press, that some teachers have already done the work, and they are basically being punished for working their normal working day and looking after their own kids at home if they have them, And of course, they're lazy teachers, but I've already made videos about that. The people who feel responsible in schools will uh, be nearing exhaustion, like we all are. And now they're working through the summer holidays for free. I don't know. I don't know. This is something I'm speculating on, but there we go. Identify pupils who are reluctant or anxious about returning, and or who are at risk of disengagement. That's pretty much all of them, isn't it? At any time, anyway. This should include disadvantaged and vulnerable children and young people. And of course, you've given them the school's guidance on how to do this, and you are going to put people in who can crunch the numbers and help with. Remember that teachers are already cleaning the toilets, and they are not letting people out in staggered lessons, or if they are, they need to utilize witchcraft and voodoo to do this, and magic people through corridors that are way too narrow to not have people rub shoulders. Anyway, so okay, so there's lots of things. The the key for me though is that they will say that they will give you more guidance, and that more guidance that will come will be uh, available when exactly. And this has been the story for the past decade, if not longer, is that schools are held in very, very low esteem. The guy you see there in the corner is Gavin Williamson. And he recently said to the 1922 committee, which is the backbench group of Tory MPs, that the National Education Union, NEU, is the no education union because they insist that it is safe to go back, that it is only safe to go back when medical experts say it is safe to go back. And the right-wing press also attacked Keir Starmer for not talking to the union and convincing them that they should be working towards a return to schools. Now, the unions want to go back to. I want them to go back to schools, but here's the thing: the unions have no power. It's the government who has the power to make the pupils return to schools, and they've already said that out. The unions, short of strike action, can do nothing at all to prevent this, and they shouldn't, and they won't. But they will insist that people have something that they can work with, not some airy-fairy plan which is unworkable. And at the moment, we don't even have that. This, which is laughingly called guidance, is basically just a demand. You will teach a broad and balanced curriculum, and you will do all the things, but you won't get any extra help to do this. Okay, so this is where I'll stop, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.